Willie Numbers, what's cracking, bro? Long time no see.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to interviewing you, man. This has been a long time coming. So let's get right into it. We were actually just talking, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't you hold that thought and let's hit record, and then we'll have the whole listenership hear what you got to say. So, how on earth did you go from just starting out in 2017 to doing almost $8 million in revenue last year, which is insane? How did you get started? And then we're going to obviously cover your journey on how you eventually got to where you're at now.
Yeah. So long story short, like we were just talking about, I heard this podcast 3 times, and it was on Sean Terry, and it was about a young guy in Miami who had, flipped a bunch of real estate, and he was like 23 years old. So by the 4th time, I noticed that he left some stuff on the, like the contact me page or whatever on the notes of the podcast. And I called his office, and he said in the podcast that he went to a high school, that I had a cousin that went to high school there. So his secretary answered the phone, and she's like, "Who are you looking for?" I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for so-and-so. I'm an old friend from high school. Just if you could put me through, because I lost his number." She's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "Will. Don't worry about it. He'll know who I am." And she's like, "Okay." And she put me through, and he answered the phone. He's like, "Hello." And I was like, "Hey, man, listen, don't hang up the phone. You don't know me. My cousin did go to Pace. However, if you teach me everything you know about this business, I'll split my first 5 deals with you 50-50. And he was just like, "Can you come by tomorrow at 11? And I was like, "I'll come by right now if you want. I don't care. I got nothing to lose." So sure enough, I went there the next day, and 91 days later, I think it was to the day, it was 5 deals, and we just off to the races.
So let's cover that real quick. So number one, you led with value, and that's a big takeaway for people. You didn't just say, "Hey, can I pick your brain, Mr. Investor?" He said, "I will split my first 5 deals with you, aka value, if you share with me what to do." Right? So you led with value. You got to lead with value. That's how you get people to actually take your phone call and not hit click.
Correct. To this day, I tell people that reach out to me, I and it's not to be an asshole or anything like that. It's the reality of it. We're all busy, right? Everyone's busy. Whether you're freaking Jeff Bezos to, the cashier at a supermarket, it doesn't matter. Everybody's got their own stuff going on. So you have a very limited window to, catch that attention. And then what comes out of your mouth next is really going to dictate where that's going to go. So for me, it was just a matter of, he's probably getting hit up all the time. And I was used to that at Merrill Lynch, and I was like, how can I stand out? And it was also one thing I could tell the listeners here. It was the definitiveness in my approach, which was unwavering. It was already assumed that I didn't give a shit. Because in my mind, I'll tell you, Greg, if he wouldn't have said yes or answered, or I would have been transferred, my next stop was going to be at his office, and I would have waited there at his lobby, just waiting. If it would have taken me a week, I would have sat there with a tent. It didn't fucking matter to me. So for me, it was like already done in my head. And I think when you approach life with that kind of conviction, there's really no one that can stop you. So you can get there, and that's fine. You know what I mean? And the universe tends to move around you.
It all kinds to happen. What do they say? It happens for you, not to you, right? So you.
100%.
The thing you said is the conviction. And I talk about this when I'm teaching Brett on my team how to sell more. If you have certainty and conviction with your offer, the seller can subconsciously feel that through the phone or in person. And then it's almost like, it's hard to describe, but they just know that you're there to solve your problem, and you're not timid about what your objective is. And they can people can feel that, bro. People can absolutely feel that. So when you did your first 5 deals with this investor, obviously you were brand new. You didn't know what you didn't know. What was like the number one thing you learned from doing those first 5 deals with him that allowed you to do it on your own and obviously have a lot of success?
Well, the number one thing was proof of concept. For me, it was the fact that, it's funny how the human brain works, right? You hear all these people, and I was listening to all these podcasts, and, I didn't go to school for real estate. That wasn't my thing. I didn't even know how to spell real estate at the time, to be honest. But I knew it was proximity, number one. But number two, when that first deal happened and I met that seller, and I was like literally fumbling the contract, had no idea what I was doing. I think at the time it was like an $89,000 purchase in 2017. It was a shitbox fire damage property. But I was sitting in here and I was like, 89 grand, it is what it is. And I just wrote it out. And I think we ended up selling it for like 105, which at the time was like, wow, it's a big deal, And it was 50-50. So for me, it was whatever that was. It was like 7 grand or whatever. So when I saw that hit and I picked up that check, because I didn't even have an account to wire it to. So when I picked up that check, I was like, dude, this is it. Like I was driving my car, I was like looking at the check, I was like, oh man, like I'm a fucking baller. Like,
Isn't it crazy? It's funny you say that because like I remember when I got started, I would listen to all like the Sean Terry podcast and Matt Terrio and all these guys and Joe McCall, and they were all talking about like, you know, you do the deal, you make the money, you make your 15, 20, 30 grand. And like, I felt like it was possible for them. And obviously it was possible for me, but I didn't have that proof of concept yet. And I remember the first time I had a check, it was for $5,000. And I split a deal with another investor, led with value, did something very similar to you. And I remember it actually came in the mail to my parents' house. And I opened up the envelope and I go, I just made $5,000 in real estate. And I was used to working for free because I wasn't doing deals because it took me a long time to do a deal. And I said, I just got paid for my value, not necessarily for my time. And then from there, that feedback loop kicked off. And, you know, we just kept humming and drumming from there. Obviously, it hasn't been easy, but you got to get that for new investors listening. You have to get that, as they say, your first check. Sean Terry talks about it, your first check. He calls it the shut up check. Right? Stop bitching at me for wanting to get in real estate. Here's proof of concept. Fuck off. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm getting rich. So it's powerful, bro. It's powerful.
You got to do it, bro. And if not for nothing, like for me, I come from a single mom and a single grandmother. So like for me, it was like all I put in front of my face was their faces. So in my mind's eye, that's all that was there. That's all that was there. So for me, it was like, I got to do it for them. But also there was a lot of bullshit and negativity in my life that I just needed to silence the fuck up. And I knew, you know, as soon as I get this shit, it's off to the races. And then it's funny because the first deal came like 2 weeks later, the second deal came like a month later, the next deal came. And then it was like 4, 5, 6. And, you know, and then of course we're talking about all the good, but then we're talking about the bad too, you know, like then I had a hiatus where I went down because I thought I'd figured it out, but I didn't. And then it was like a 3-month gap to that next check. You know what I'm saying?
The valley of despair, as they say. You know, you're just like, I know it works, but I'm not making money. What the hell? I'm making offers. And it's like a cyclical business, you know, at least in the beginning, because you're not, you know, used to that kind of stuff. Like when you make money once, it's like great, but then you do it twice, you're like great. And then you have this like gap and you're like, fuck, like, does the business not work? Did the market change? So anyway, I digress. Well, let's talk about, you know, you started in 2017. It's 2022. You did, what was the revenue last year? Was it 7.3? 7.3 million. That's and that's just in like the state of Florida. You're not nationwide or anything like that, right?
Correct.
So obviously you've grown your business substantially to be one of the big dogs, if not the big dog in South Florida. So what was your first, like from 2018, like when did you really start to hit some serious like revenue growth? Because obviously, you know, that's a lot of revenue for a wholesaling company. I don't know a lot of people doing that kind of revenue, to be honest with you. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So first things first, I appreciate that. It's been a long road for sure. But you know, I think for sure, if I could recall, it was like 2019 where we were working with another mentor and like we had kind of, you know, elevated outside of that. And this guy was a multiple 7-figure guy, but he had retired. So he was in the heyday of, he started in 06, shit hit the fan in 07, 08. He had like 100 properties, almost lost his ass. Smart, one of the most brilliant guys to this day that I've ever met. Very smart, very fucking committed dude. And he made it back in like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The guy cleaned up house. And he was running multiple 7 figures. And then he kind of just stepped away in 2017, 2016. And he was kind of doing his own thing. And very same approach to him. When I approached him, it was value add. I bought the ticket to a mastermind. And I literally walked into my attorney's office at the time who knew him. And I told him, I was like, who do you know in this business that can take me to the next level? And he's like, you know what? You remind me of somebody. And I'm going to text him right now. And he group chatted us, and I get goosebumps right now. And he group chatted us, and he was like, hey man, if you want to meet for lunch tomorrow, I'm open. And when I met him, it was like right off the bat. And, you know, I could think back to like a younger me. Like, you know, I have a lot of energy now, but I must have had a lot more energy, and I was younger and stupider, and it just no consequence, right? Like a little kid that falls and breaks his bone. It's just like, whatever, it's fine. When you're younger, that's something beautiful that you should try to keep, you know, going through your life as you get older. But I think we all put our little boxes and little, you know, we like corral ourselves and like, oh, no, you can't do that, you know, which is bullshit because you can't. But yeah, 2019, when we started working with him, like early 2019, towards the end of 2019, this is pre-COVID, we had already cracked the first 7-figure year. We knew it was already going to happen. We already had it in the pipeline. Our closed revenue was already there. Life started to change a little bit. I was able to move to like a new apartment, and I started noticing. I was like, oh man, I got a Jeep. I got like a sick Wrangler at the time. I was, it was cool. It was cool shit. And I was like, oh man, I had seen more money than I'd ever seen in my bank account. So things like that, and now it was like consistency. And then it was my first 6-figure deal, which happened in 2019. And when that happened, that the wire hit, that was life altering for me and my business partner, because I remember just sitting there and I was like, disbelief, because my biggest deal to date before that was like 33 grand or something, which is still considerable, but it's a far cry from 100. And dude, when you get that, I mean, I remember like I zeroed out everything. I was like, no more credit card bill, no more this, no more student loans. And like when I ended up with, I was like, dude, this is still a lot of fucking money. And from there, and then the next deal, which was like 50 pop, was like 2 weeks later. And then there was another one, and these were all built up into the pipeline. There was another one for like 73 that hit like a month and a half later. So we had like a period of like 200K in like a 60-day period. To a very, very lean operation that was spending about $6 grand total a month, So it was a lot of hustle and a lot of, phone banging for sure to get to that point. So when that happened, we were like, all right, now we can turn on the floodgates and let's move on. So we put some serious money behind marketing. We hired our first VA, our second VA, and that was the beginning of like, okay, cool. How do we start to build the processes and the systems and stuff like that? And it kind of moved from there. But definitely 2019 was like, okay, like the plane, started to really take off. It's like right off the tarmac, and
dude,
you look out your window and you're like, oh shit, I'm up.
What do you remember the month you did? Because I did my first 6-figure deal in 2019 too, and it changed my fucking life. It was unbelievable. I think shit in my pants, dude.
I think it was June. It was like midsummer. It was like June or something.
So mine was in September. I got the wire, and my goal was to do a fucking 6-figure deal because I did some big ones before that. But I'm like, I got to hit a 6-figure. And I bought this house, renovated it, got a fucking, if I just kept that thing till now, oh my gosh, the freaking property went up so much because it was like New York City. But it changed my life. And not only did it change my financial life, but it taught me that is possible. Just like starting out in the business, when you've never made money on your own, you make a 10 grand check, or even if you make a 2 grand check, you got proof of concept, then you level up, you do a 6-figure, you go, I just made 100 G's on one fucking property. It's like this, there's unlimited potential out there. So obviously you use that to then systematically scale your way up to your business now. So let's talk about now. The real takeaway that I'm getting is like, and the listeners are like, you took that money and you scaled responsibly. You scaled the marketing responsibly. You didn't just go crazy. Like, you obviously did this in a systematic way where you didn't get yourself in trouble. Obviously it's never easy. So how did you like use the throttle to where like you were obviously increasing your marketing spend to then increase the revenue without having the whole thing? Because I know a lot of people, they pump 50 grand a month in marketing. They were used to doing 10. Their phones blow up, and then their team is like, what are you doing? They're like, we don't have the infrastructure to support this. So how did you systematically support your way up to that revenue you're doing now? Because it's obviously not easy, and you got to do it in a certain way.
No, it's not. And it's not to, there's a lot of nuances that go into that. It's certainly not, it wasn't easy, and it definitely wasn't, we didn't do it perfectly because we messed up a lot of shit along the way. We burnt out like a couple marketing campaigns. We're like, all right. Now, then we accidentally bumped into the wall called bandwidth, and, hey, you are 2 guys. There's only so much of you to go around. So if you're on an appointment and you're selling a deal or you're showing it to a buyer, like, we were still doing all these day-to-day things. So when that happened, we just kind of learned trial by fire, and we burned a bunch of money in marketing too, shit that didn't work. You got into PPC, and then you get into cold calling, and I'm going to drop a 20,000 postcard campaign back in 2019. That was saying a lot. So you have things like that, and you just kind of learn from it, and you see what doesn't work really quickly. Where I think the key is that we had the right person to guide us at the time, to be able to tell us, whoa, hold on. You're going to run into that wall if you do that. So we did a pretty good job, not a perfect job, but we did a pretty good job, I would say, at listening to that and where it was going to go and how to kind of point our guns in the right direction. And, over time, when you make money and when you start to really scale a business, what changes more than anything, in my opinion, is the confidence that you have in yourself and your ability to go out and produce more. So, we're going through an economic change right now, right? Is it scary as shit? Absolutely. Even, for way bigger guys than me, 9-figure guys that are still like, whoa, what's going on? So if those guys are paying attention, and girls, you should be too, right? So for me, it's like the economy changing right now. It's already expected for me, but also I have so much resilience and confidence coming from experience at this point and a lot of fuck ups that I'm okay. And I trust in myself enough to where I'm like, it's going to be all right. I'm just going to push through this shit. Like I'm cool with it. I know that there's fog. I don't know what's on the other side of the fog, but I'm confident that I can drive through the fog. It's fine. But it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And it's funny you say that because we were on the phone, I believe it was last week, and we were talking about, the market's a little shaky. We're in some masterminds and whatnot. And it's like, you gave me a piece of advice. You were like, listen, during times like this, and you shared an example in your business where when 2020 rolled around, you freaking put your foot on the gas and it changed the game for you guys. Cause that's, right after 2019, when you hit that big score, 2020 was right around the corner, really 6 months later. And so what did you do? Cause really since the pandemic, obviously the real estate market's gone crazy, but you guys fucking amped it up big time. And that's really where I feel like that's where that big momentum drive hit for you.
Dude, look, I've had my fair share of ups and downs, getting out of 2019, closed out the year in January with our CFO and, CPA at the time, who's become really our CFO. And at the time we closed it out and I remember looking at the numbers and, I'm a numbers guy. So I got it and I looked at it and I was like, all right, I think it was 1.35 million for rev. And it was a very lean operation. It's pretty much a 2-man band. So we netted like, I don't know, 750 or something. So there was the first time in my life where I'm like, dude, I went from like a goal of like, hey, if I could make 100K a year doing this, it'd be great. Right. And then I went from like 100 to like 350 as personal income. I was like, oh shit. Like I blew past the $250,000, which was my next goal. And then, and then I was like, oh, I have to, and then we did that again. But when going into 2020, we had so much momentum. We're like, fuck yeah, like 2020 is going to be the best year ever. Like we're going to do 3 million this year. And dude, and then COVID hit, in March. So, and then that's really where, your tenacity is going to get tested. And for us, come March, April of 2020, that's what happened. And in June of 2020, I decided to, with my business partner, I was like, look, man, we don't know where this is going. We had a certain amount. I think we had like 200K in reserves. And I was like, look, we need something inside of me is telling me that we need to double down and this isn't going to last forever. I don't have a crystal ball, but I was also listening to a lot of people above me that were doing similar things in their business. So going back to the right network and the right mentor. So when I did that, we decided to throttle down and we doubled and tripled our marketing for the next 3 months consecutively. And what happened was come September-ish for us in South Florida is when shit really started to pick back up. And then we had a pipeline of like 600 or so leads that we had marketed to, that built up, that pent up demand. And then that gate opened and we were the guys there because so many people had quit, so many people had walked away, or they're like, oh, fuck real estate, it's never going to work again, whatever, the world's over. So we were there with like open arms, like come to me, I got it, I'm still buying. And dude, we just took off like a rocket. And then that the Compound Effect, which is a great book by Darren Hardy, by the way, I'm sure you know, but seriously, the Compound Effect, I was reading it at the time, again, for like the second or third time. And I was like, oh, dude, this is it. Like I was seeing it clearly, like a ticker. And I was like, oh man, I gotta fucking do this. Like this guy's
Big Mo, baby. Big Mo showed up at your doorstep.
Like, dude, Mr. Mo's gonna show up. And sure enough, dude, it did. And then that compound effect from what we got, what we garnered there, then it really took off, because then we started having common, 300-400K months, and when I saw a 300K month, and then the next month was like 250, and then the next month after that was like 380, and the next month after that was like 400, I was like, oh shit, that bank account builds up pretty quickly. And that's when things really, that's one of the first time, actually the first time in my life where I genuinely felt that I had the power of choice. That was it for me. And I remember it very vividly, because for the first time ever, I didn't have to, it's not that I was retired, but mentally I was like, I started noticing myself making decisions from a totally different place, which was not desperation. It was what's best for me, what's best for the business. And yeah, I don't want to do that deal, but I want to do this one. Or yeah, I could wholesale that deal because I don't need to rehab it. So it was making decisions like that. And yeah, I want to work with that person, but I'd rather work with this person. Yeah, I'd rather hire this person. So, you could hold out for certain things, and you start to, the world changes around you, and then the universe sends you different things, because when you're not in the pocket, just desperate, throwing passes all day, and you're waiting and you're kind of looking, you're reading the play, that's where you can make the better plays and the better decisions. So that's what it was for me.
Man, that's so powerful, because at the end of the day, you built that momentum up to that point of, you had that autonomy. You're like, hey, if I can do that, like when you have options, like you just said, it's when you can make the best decisions, right? Whether, especially with properties, hey, I don't need to wholesale this. I can fix and flip this for 70, and I can wholesale the 3 other properties, and I can pull in 80 collectively from that. We can use that 80 to go back into marketing, and then we can make our 70 on that one rehab that we might have made 30 on. So obviously, the numbers get real interesting, which is exactly where I wanted to have this conversation continue to. Your nickname is Willie Numbers, right? And I didn't know why that was for a while until we interacted and I did some homework on you. And obviously, you're a numbers guy. Before you got into real estate, you were in the financial services business.
Yeah, I was a commodities trader.
Okay,
Merrill. I was an analyst, and then I was a trader first.
So were you living in Manhattan, or were you living in Jersey?
Yeah, I was on 250 Vesey Street.
So you lived in Manhattan. Yeah.
That's it was like closer to the financial district. Yeah, it was super cool. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life to this day. I love New York. I think I'm actually going up there in December with my girlfriend. But yeah, it's great. I mean, it taught me a lot, and how to think differently at Merrill Lynch. And again, things in life happen to you, or happen for you, better said, than to you. I'm a big believer in that. And I kind of learned that ass backwards as well. Learned a lot of things ass backwards, but that's one of the best ones, because when I was at Merrill Lynch, I remember, I think I was making, this is living in New York, but I was making like 73 grand a year, which is like negative 20 grand a year.
Oh, in New York, you're toast. San Diego, you're toast. Yeah.
I was in my little studio, like a roommate, not doing much because I didn't have many options. So, eating ramen, but, and working like 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
So, work ethic and all that shit, sleeping at your desk, that kind of stuff. But, more importantly, I remember I had to do a margin call on Citigroup for a trade. And I was with my boss at the time. And he was like, yeah, just margin them, the position was changing. It was a margin call. And sure enough, I margined them, and it was $100 million margin call because it was Citigroup. I mean, they buy in big blocks. And I called the trade desk at Citi, did that, hung up. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Wire will be there at the end of the day. And I swear to God, I remember seeing the freaking $100 million wire hit. And my boss was like, yeah, we got it. No big deal. And everybody just went back to normal. But like in my mind, I was like, who the fuck has $100 million cash to just kick out 3 hours after I call them to tell them that it's due? Like, what's going on in this world that's a reality? And who the fuck is that? And how do I go work for that guy?
Right?
Like, how do I learn this? So it was the first time that, like, your mind's like a rubber band. And after it's expanded past the point, it will never go back to the same. And that was it for me. That was like a big aha moment for me till this day, where I was like, whoa, there's a lot of money in this world, like a lot of money. And there's definitely, it was a lesson in there's not a lack of opportunity ever. It's just a lack of resourcefulness that people have. Really what it is.
Dude, that is great. Seeing a 9-figure transaction happen in live time. Cash.
Yep. And then that became normal too. I mean, I started margin people for 50 mil. 30 mil, 60 mil. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, we were like one of 7 traders on like a $3 billion portfolio. I mean, it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. It was impressive.
Well, the thing with that is, in order to do those types, especially for you to be involved in that transaction, obviously you're trading the commodities, you got to know your numbers. So to make it real estate related, so you got a big business now, you have employees, you got a team. What are, we actually did a web call yesterday. You helped me out with a webinar. So we talked about KPIs, and we talked about marketing KPIs, and specifically for direct mail. So with your business, like you got your big real estate business, you got different marketing channels, different metrics you track. You're the numbers guy, hashtag Willie Numbers. What are the core KPIs as the owner that you track to make sure that your business is obviously healthy and growing? Like, because obviously there could be 10,000 KPIs. You could KPI anything. But what do you really look for that help see really whether you're on or off track?
Yeah, so from a higher level view, there's a lot of KPIs in between, and I'll answer this question by saying there's definitely, I don't want anybody on this call, my level of where my business is at has evolved, but I've grown to that. It wasn't like one day, boom, to the next. So there was a lot of KPI tracking, which we still do, but I have people that, track the departmental KPIs, let's call it that, right? But as a business owner, what I want to know is where's liquidity, right? Where's my cash conversion cycle? What do we have out in projected cash flow, outflows, and where's our liquidity is a big one. And what are we doing? What's my contract conversion, right? How soon can I get, my cash cycles? How soon do I get cash out? How soon does it come back in? And what's the multiple that it's coming back in at? So I'm really paying attention to those numbers. That's my most important number.
So you're looking at the cash conversion cycle from the time you spend money on advertising till the time you actualize that direct response marketing into revenue, basically. Is that correct?
Correct. And then it's really monitoring, okay, what's the fallout rate? How much of a confidence indicator score can I attach to that number? And how consistent are we at hitting our projections? Because it's great to project shit, and projections are awesome. But, I heard Rob O'Neill, who's an ABC, say this, which he said, the only time that the plan works is in the planning room. And that's a fact. Those guys know their shit, right? So, but it's true. And you can project all you want and it's great, but how a great metric is how effective are you at actually hitting your projection? Because that's going to determine how consistent you're going to be, right? And how much you can throttle down. If the more you're right, the more confidence you have, the more you can throttle down. In a sliding economy, you want to be really right. And you want to, kind of, hey, what's going on here, right? Right now, everybody's cash conversion cycle is fucked. Everybody, I don't care who you are. Everybody's cash conversion cycle right now is fucked. Because all the projections that we had and, the last, Q1 of this year, phenomenal. Right now, not like that, and we're definitely not going to end, on a great quarter. It's not going to be a bad quarter, but then it's what do you do to adjust that? And where do you go? How do you pivot? And dude, I'm saying pivot like 10 times a day now, which is funny, but it's true, and my girlfriend laughs because she loves Friends, and, they say pivot in the episode with Ross where he's like, pivot, but it's true, dude. She bought a sticker, she put it on the fridge, but it's pivot like all the freaking time. And right now is a great time. Like a lot of people aren't going to make it out of this or through this because they're not going to pivot. And I can't tell you how many people I see that are literally just on the same train and they think that the destination is going to be there.
Blinders on.
Oh, dude. And they're like, no, man, I'm really not seeing it. And the people that I hear talking like that, I'm like, get away from me. I'm good. Because if you're not seeing it, it's no right or wrong, but you should definitely be waking up, right? If you're not feeling like, healthily paranoid right now, you got a problem.
Dude, I'm healthily paranoid, like no matter what the fuck the economy's doing. I'm always like, well, we got to improve. We got to improvise. So with that being said, what are you like right now? We're recording the show and we're I wouldn't say we're right into this new market shift, but we've been in the market shift for, 4 or 5 months now. I remember I sold a flip out in San Diego, quick story. And I bought the deal at a decent number. I thought this is by the way, this is a fucking like micro tiny condo, 1-bed condo, South San Diego, not Beverly Hills at all, but good area. And I'm like, I'm going to sell this. And this was in March. I bought it and rehabbed it. I thought I was going to sell it for like 330, 340. That's exactly what the realtor said. I'm like, this is my buddy. I'm like, yeah, man, fuck it. Let's do it. The numbers make sense. Got the contractor there. All is good. I sell the fucker. We go into contract for 382.5. The appraisal comes back short. I sell it for 370. I go, this is fucking weird because the second comp besides mine that sold was 330. I go, this is fucking weird. Like, there's no way this is going to last. And sure as shit, 2 weeks later, interest rates start fucking coming in. And if I were to sell that condo now, I probably would have made 10 grand, probably would have sold it for 320, 330. Still would have made a little bit of a profit. But anyway,
Right.
so the market shift now. So what are you doing, at least in your business now in what is it? It's just October of 2022 to adjust to the new changes that are happening, right? Especially you're primarily a wholesaler down there.
Yeah. So it's a great question. Right now we've pivoted and we've made great relationships with hedge funds, and I'll be talking about this, more and more often as the situation develops. But making relationships with hedge funds and listen, in any market, whether it's a great market or a bad market, there's always a buyer. There's always a group of people or institutions that are buying. So my best recommendation is find out where those dudes and girls hang out and really get close with them and understand what their buy box is and replicate it on the back end side. And it sounds so simple, but most people try to overcomplicate this. But that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking to not follow the herd, but I'm definitely looking to see who has the most amount of money, where are they buying, and what are they buying at. And then I'm reverse engineering that to fulfill that order and that product. That's really what I'm doing. And that's probably the biggest thing. I'm obviously shifting, the micro things are more the marketing, right? Shifting that, tightening up the team, training, novations, more sophisticated, more complex, higher, end exit strategies, right? You're not going to be a one-trick pony with a little hammer with cash offers for everybody. It's not going to work. You're going to have to literally, the reason I say that is because one of my first mentors called me the Cuban hammer. He's like, dude, all you want to do is cash offer everybody.
Cuban hammer.
This was years ago. He said, dude, you're like the Cuban hammer. All you want to do is hammer cash offers, and it's not going to work. And sure enough, I understand what he's saying now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's. I think in times like these, it's staying aware, staying up to date, being very urgent with massive action every day, and then realizing that things are already pivoting. Some things are out of your control. But the first thing I would do is take a look at your current inventory, whatever it is that you have. If you have no inventory, even better. You don't have a lot of stress. Reverse engineer where you should go get inventory, and that way you don't fuck it up from the beginning. So I would also, and I'll just throw this in there as a caveat, but I have also adjusted my buy box we were accustomed to buying down here in South Florida at 80 to 85% of ARV. That was standard. We were ripping deals still 40K spreads. Yeah. I mean, because our market hyper appreciated, right? So now I've adjusted my buy box to 70% of ARV. I did a hard pull, 15 to 10%. I was early to the party. About a month and a half ago, I started doing that. A lot of people gave me pushback. My team was like, oh, they trust me. But they're like, oh, man, we're going to get beat out. I'm like, we are going to get beat out on surface level. But the problem is everyone else who's beating you out won't be able to sell that product. And it's going to bounce right back.
Yep.
So come to your 70% and you'll be there. And then that way you don't look like a liar. And when you do get something under contract at 70%, it's going to move. It's
exactly.
You don't have to ride that emotional roller coaster. So it's if I could say anything, it's making the harder choices up front to expect the delayed gratification or delayed effect that's going to come down the line, inevitably.
That is so well said. I literally had this conversation with my team, my small team, two weeks ago. I said, listen, we're going to probably get less deals in the short term, but in the long term, we're going to get more deals because all these jerkies are not going to be able to sell these houses. And we're going to be the one standing with that offer. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be able to solve their problem. Like, I'll give you 2 examples. We wholesaled 2 houses this week. One of them, we bought it at the right number, sold it in 12 hours. Second one, sold it in literally an hour, 10 grand. Well, really 15 grand over ask because we had a buy it now price. And then some crazy guy came in 10 grand over that. And I said, sure, let's do it. Listen, if you have it, and I was saying real estate is a commodity. If you have a property, I knew the second one, I knew for sure. I'm like, I'm going to put this out because I still sit in that seat. This is going to fucking fly off the shelf. And sure as shit, in a tough market, in a changing market, we got a 35K rip on that, right? So it's like you got to buy the fucking property at the right number off the bat. It's going to cover your ass when you go to sell that property. I get hit up 3-4 times a week. Other wholesalers coming to our Google ads that we're paying for, trying to sell me a shit deal. And I'm like, listen, bro, you guys are trying to sell this property for too much money. You got to do the hard work of actually negotiating and solving someone's problem. And then that will, in effect, get you a contract that you could sell for a profit, or a house you can sell for a profit. So you got to be realistic about the reality of the marketplace. And like you said earlier, there's always an ass for every seat. You just got to have the right seat, you know?
And the right ass in the right seat.
And the right ass.
Lesson that I've learned. Yeah, I've learned that the hard way, right? Sometimes you have the right ass in the wrong seat. Sometimes you have the wrong ass in the wrong seat.
Yeah.
And
yeah, right.
you know, it's funny, but it's true. You know, something as simple as at the beginning of my business, I was sitting on acquisition and my business partner was sitting more on the disposition. We quickly realized a year and a half in that, whoa, I'm better now, but it's not my natural ability to be great at acquisition. I'm a hard closer. My business partner is more empathetic. He understands more. He will sit and talk for 4 or 5 hours, building rapport, and he's great at it. I can't stand it. That's not my pace. That's not how I move. I definitely move faster, and there's no right or wrong. But with disposition, I'm awesome because I'm a shark, and it's a shark dealing with a shark, so I'm not going to get fucked on disposition. Right. So that's where my personality comes out better. So sometimes it's just switching things and figuring out, hey, man, you know what? It's not that you're bad. It's just I got you in the wrong seat. Let me move you over here. And then you'd be shocked, dude. You'd be like, wow, man, dude, the team's kicking ass. It's like, of course, because you had a punter as a QB. It was never going to work. The guy doesn't know how to throw a ball. He doesn't know how to throw a ball. That's so true. And it's true. So true.
Dude, you remind me of myself. Listen, I can buy houses for sure, but I am like you. I'm in New York. I'm impatient. You lived in New York. Makes sense. I'm like, fuck it. I want to get the deal done. I know what to say to get it done, but I would rather just fucking personally make an offer and be like, do you fucking want it or not? Versus like, dude, for me to sit in someone's house, I mean, fucking, dude, it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I got to sit on this couch, hear about their fucking cat. It's like, you know, I want to get to the objective. And like you said, with dispositions, it's a B2B sale. It's not a B2C sale. You're selling to a fucking smart investor who's making a decision based off numbers with real scarcity. I got 1 house and 10 buyers. Do you fucking want it or not? If you're dealing with a seller, I got 10 buyers and I got 1 house. So it's completely reversed. You know, that's a whole other conversation. And obviously, it's definitely,
you have to understand where your strong suits are and where you belong, where you are. Could you learn things? Yes. Could you become better at them? Yes. Are there going to be times in your career and the season of your life or the season of your business that you have to suck it up and do shit? Absolutely. There were years of that for me. I hated cold calling, but I did it because I had to. I have money to pay people to cold call. So you got to do it until you make enough money to remove yourself from that seat, right? I think I'm a better visionary and definitely a better leader, right? And a big thinker than I am in the microcosm of things, right? So that, you know, I've just kind of learned about myself, right? And my business partner as well.
That's it. That's simply keep it simple. And man, we covered a lot of ground today, bro. I know you got a dinner coming up, so I want to, you know, close the show now. So listen, brother, if people want to, number one, follow you online, what is the best way for them to follow you? How do they check you out online?
Instagram and TikTok is definitely the best way. I would say Instagram, really. I'm very, very active on Instagram. So Willie Numbers with a Y, WILLY Numbers is my handle on both. And then I have a website. It's called willienumbers.com. It's going to have a JV page on it. I'm coming out with actually a course because I believe that 6 years in, a lot of my friends have been wanting me to get into education for a long time. I've kind of stuck behind the scenes, but I am bilingual, so it'll be the first course of its kind to teach wholesaling in English and in Spanish. I recorded it in both languages. So I think that that's very powerful, and I think that a lot of people can benefit from that. So I'm going to start doing some one-to-many style coaching and, you know, helping people scale their businesses and, you know, getting to that multiple 6 figure, and then that 7 figure, which everybody, takes as the promised land, I guess. But that's the best way. I mean, if it's on Instagram, it's actually me. So if you reach out to me, it'll actually be me talking. And I'm the type of dude, man, that if somebody reaches out to me or somebody hits me up, sends me a message, whatever, and they got something interesting or they got a deal or I feel that person's adding value, whether you've never done a deal or not, I'll hop on the phone with you. I'll randomly give you a call. I don't care, on a Saturday. For me, that's just who I am. I'm definitely a go-giver, I would say.
Love that,
and I just want to help people. So
I love that, man. I'm the same way. I had someone reach out to me. They were genuine about it. I got on the horn with them for a little bit and they were like, oh, fuck, I didn't think you'd get on the phone with me. I'm like, of course, you're fucking cool as shit. You approached me in a good way and, we chopped it up. So I highly recommend people check out willienumbers.com. This guy knows what he's doing, listeners. If you want to learn from someone who is a legitimate guru, not a guru, Willie Numbers is the guy. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put in your Instagram page. And brother, I appreciate you taking the time out for this recording and hope you have a kick-ass evening and a great weekend.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, brother.